This we believe to be the location of Ben Hall's house. The reason we can say that is that it's exactly the right location that was given to us by the evidence from Inspector Sanderson and John Maguire. Also, if you read Hollister's diaries, it's a right sequence of events from Iago to Maguire's to Hall's. And that's reiterated again by Dargan, because Dargan says he goes past Iago, past Wilson's, onto Hall's. So this is where we think it is, and we're pretty confident we got it right. And what we've found here is lots and lots of little artefacts, and not so little artefacts. Now, where was Ben Hall's hut? Well, it's basically where I'm standing now. It occupied this area. Things have changed a lot, but we found most of the artefacts in that gully. That's because they were washed down there. A lot of the artefacts were actually found under these trees. Now, you might ask, well, what are they doing over here? Now, you remember that when Pottinger and Hollister come here to burn Ben Hall's hut down, the story goes that they emptied the hut of the furniture and they stacked it under the trees. Well, that's exactly what happened. They came here, found this hut, emptied all these artefacts, furniture, and placed it under those trees. And over time, it's washed down into the gully. But we also found some beds up on there in the flat area on top of that ridge. And the reason being is that the occupants here, which was Alan Maguire, Susan Pryor, William Hall, Ben Hall's brother, and his wife, stayed here for 3 or 4 days afterwards. And we know that as a fact because Hollister on the 18th will come here and catch Ben Hall leading away Alan Maguire, and he tracks them through the Wed Mountains back to Iago Homestead. So they actually carted some of the stuff, and we found it up there on the ridge, and there's piles and piles of glass and bed frames and all sorts of artefacts. Now, one of the things I want to make sure everybody understands, this is private property, and I'm not going to tell anybody where it is. We have to respect the landowner's wishes that no one comes here and starts walking around without their permission. So if you do recognise where we are, please do not come here. The last piece of information that I want to share with you is the reason we're very confident that this is the right site is the butlers knew Dan Charters. And Dan Charters was arrested here along with William Hall and Ben Hall by Frederick Pottinger after the Ungarra robbery, and the butlers knew Dan Charters, and Dan Charters said to them, this is where it was. Now, no one's been here for nearly 100 years. And we came here and we found all these artefacts just lying around. Now, we spoke to the landowners and they said, take them away. And we hope to share them with you and authenticate them in due course. But we're going to take you up to the truck in a minute and just show you what we found. So this morning we went through this site, and it is most probably Ben Hall's site. And what we found is that under the tree there was a whole heap of glass and what like crockery, along with some furniture items, and then you can see over time it had been washed down into the gully. So we searched that area and we found these items in a few hours. We got pieces of glass, and you can see there's little dents along the side of it, quite ornate, and there's some green glass here. Now, we're not really sure it's all right of the same vintage, but it's all found around here. Now, it was interesting when this is pieces of crockery, but it was interesting to note when we spoke to Peter Butler, who owns this area, said that his family's been here since the late 1800s, and no one has lived on this block of land in that time. So the only person who could have been here is most likely Ben Hall. So these are the artefacts we recovered from the Ben Hall homestead site, or what we believe is the Ben Hall homestead site. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 beds, remains of an old stove and some bed rails. Now, the number of beds is consistent to the number of people that were at the site when it was burnt down. We'll put these photos up so you can see the bed heads in some detail, But there was William Hall, Ben Hall's brother, his wife living there, Ellen Maguire, which is his sister-in-law, John Maguire's wife, Susan Pryor, Ben Hall's girlfriend, an infant child, and a couple of kids. So the amount of furniture kind of matches the number of people living at the homestead or the hut when it was burnt down. The other thing to consider is that John Wilson has bought John Maguire's lease, so that is why Ellen Maguire is living in Ben Hall's hut. So possibly, very likely, some of this furniture actually belonged to the Maguires. Now, how come all this furniture finished up under the trees at the Ben Hall homestead site? Well, the story goes that John Wilson buys John Maguire's lease, and he doesn't like these people living in Ben Hall's hut, which is also on John Wilson's lease. So Wilson goes to Pottinger and says, can you get rid of that lot out of that hut? And Pottinger gives him 3 warnings, says, got to leave. Turns up on the 14th of March and says, right, you lot, out you go. Now, Pottinger knows that Wilson's within his legal right to evict them. He's probably within his legal right to burn the hut down. It's his hut, but he doesn't own his furniture. So they gather it all up and they throw it under the trees. Now, it's pretty ornate and pretty good looking furniture for its time. Why is that? Because John Walsh, who lives right next door, he's got a very large property next to Sandy Creek, is a very, very wealthy man. Now, Pottinger, when he's looking for a gardener, goes to Kitty Brown's place, and he says in his notes that Kitty Brown had a 4-poster bed, so she had some pretty good furniture as well. So my bet is that John Walsh looked after Kitty Brown, his daughter, Ellen Maguire was another daughter, that's where some of this furniture come from, and Bridget Hall. So this is where this furniture come from. John Walsh probably bought most of this. Now you can see it's all the same era and it's all in the same rate of decay, and it was all found under the trees and there was nothing else there apart from this stuff. So it makes sense that it all come from the same era. A couple of things to note. Top of a stove. They didn't have fireplaces, they had freestanding stoves. This is a pot ring, you can see through there. There's the lifting points. Now they also had a freestanding stove leg, so that confirms that. Why is that? We're going to put a photo up on screen, and this is reportedly Kitty Brown's hut, but Ben Hall's hut would have been very similar. And as you can see, there's no fireplace. They had a covered-in fire stove, but not a fireplace, because finding materials to make bricks was very difficult. Making bricks wasn't easy, and finding someone to lay bricks wasn't that easy either. So they had these freestanding stoves and made a lot of sense. This is the back of the stove. It's got the word premium stamped in it. Put a photo of that up on screen for you as well. So we're going to try to identify its origins and date. But the most important piece of evidence we have is a bed end, which has still got some black and red paint in it. So we can take this to a lab and get it chemically dated. And I'll put a photo of this on screen so you can see it as well. So if we get this chemically dated, it'll give us some idea whether we're in the right paddock. But it seems really odd that you have all this furniture. It's all the same era. All looks the same rate of decay, and was found under the trees in the Ben Hall homestead site, just like the story said. So we're going to try to verify it and see if it really is what we think it is.